Sports presents Benning Bites with Damon Benning. Benning Bites with Damon Benning.
Another episode of Benning Bites. However you get us, Apple, Google, Spotify. Just keep doing it, man. We'll try to keep providing you some good content, some different perspectives. Some are the same, and maybe we expound. I don't know. Sometimes we're the originator. Sometimes we're kind of a duplicator. But whatever it is, we just try to keep you informed, different perspectives. At least if the topics are similar, we'll try to provide something different. That's just what we do. So we appreciate you fine folks being a part of what we do. Make sure you give us a listen on AM 590 or the podcasts, KFOR at 9 in Lincoln. Lots of ways. Man, just be a part of what we're doing. We need you. On the heels, fairly spirited show yesterday. We talked about a lot. I had a hypothesis, maybe a little bit of his deductive reasoning. I was talking about the rules of engagement, the RHULESs, with them fresh off of camping in Texas and making some offers and shoot. I mean, on the heels of Buford, more Texas commits in the 2024 class than they do in Nebraska, from the state of Nebraska in the 2024 class. And a couple of questions came out of yesterday, because I was talking about kind of a two-way street. I'm like, if Nebraska goes all in and they're recruiting the state like crazy and you're getting maximum effort and they're leaving no stone unturned and, all things being equal, in-state, out-of-state, I think advantage goes to the in-state guy. Now, keep in mind, I said all things equal. I'm not doing you a favor, but all things being equal. Is that, I think that's going to kind of be a two-way street. I've heard the staff talk about loyalty and going first and getting in early and believing in them before the plan actually comes to fruition. So I'm just picking up bird crumbs, and it's not a cautionary tale because you can't threaten or kids to do anything. I think they kind of have to do what they do, and it just grows. But I did say I could see this staff being very tough on kids that leave the state and for whatever the reason at some point in time want to come back, especially if they feel like they've maximized the efforts in recruiting. Now, again, the examples I gave was, Teddy. I think Teddy Rizak would be different. It's not just because I love Teddy. I just think that Nebraska didn't get the chance to fully recruit him and kind of lay it on the line before he made a decision to go to Notre Dame. Then, let's say a player that they've exhausted all resources in, let's say hypothetically Carter Nelson or Caleb Pyfrom or Caleb Benning or somebody goes to another school and they feel like they've exhausted all options and then you want to come back to Nebraska. I feel like that may be kind of tough. Just because if you're afforded the benefits of being an in-state guy when it comes to getting and garnering the respect of Nebraska, then you may get what comes with that if that's not your first choice. And again, it's not, hey, man, I just want to caution you. If you're going to leave, make sure you're going to stay away. I think it's just something we need to be cognizant of because I can kind of understand it. I see kind of how it goes back. And I even said this with Raiola. All the critics and the cynics that were out there was, can't wait till it goes south at Georgia and he comes back to Nebraska. And I'm like, yeah, number one, I'm not so sure Nebraska takes him. Number two, I'm not so sure the family would want that either. That's just low-hanging fruit because that comes with that comes with a price. And I think it has to be a very good story in order to, I think, pull that off. And listen, Nebraska's doing their due diligence. And I would kind of look at it this way with the impact of Texas, because somebody asked me last night or night before last, do high school coaches in Nebraska feel secondary, not necessary to the relationships that they formed in Texas with the Texas high schools with Dr. Elsa. And so I thought about it for a second, and at least early on, this is just my perspective, feeling like I have an okay pulse on what's going on with high school coaches in Nebraska. I don't think they're comparing and contrasting yet, right? I don't think they say, oh, they're giving all these guys this attention in Texas like we're not getting any in the state of Nebraska, because I think they absolutely are getting pretty good attention in the state of Nebraska. And I would look at it like this. Imagine what would happen once Nebraska does form those relationships like they have in Texas, with the long-standing trust and the word is bond, and hey, I got a guy, and come see us, where they have the nuances, where you get Nebraska's version of a Bob Wager on staff, or you start to establish the relationships here in the state of Nebraska like you have in Texas. I would look at it that way. Because remember, they've been here, 7 months? Some less than that? Like, that's not that long to be building the relationships that they have in the state of Texas when we're making like comparisons. It's not quite apples to apples. And I wouldn't look at it as a negative. I would look at it as, can't wait to see what happens in another year if they continue to form those relationships. Just another part of the rules of engagement. Is it a two-way street? Will it be tough sledding? And again, it's not a threat. I'm not saying, hey guys, you better pick Nebraska on the first time around. I would say that it's always tougher to kind of come back without a good story on what happened. Now, maybe you could tell the staff, hey, listen, I'm homesick. I don't think he's going to be the type of guy, and Coach Rule the type of staff to say, hey, I told you so. They may think it. I don't know if they would say it. But remember what I've said about Coach Rule and this staff with second chances and believing in kids, and why I think they're so good at development is they do a fantastic job of meeting you right where you're at. So if they can continue with the blank slate theory, right, no preconceived notions, no judgment, then I think you're more apt to get another go at it. But remember, part of what I just said was no preconceived notions, no judgment. Depends on how the recruiting played out before you decided to make a different decision to go someplace else. Just food for thought, not word is bond like fact. Just food for thought. Do with it what you will. It's another episode of Benning Bites.